is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Final hour OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We've got Blayre Turnbull of the Sceptres coming up later this hour, our best bets. Pierre LeBrun will join us here in a moment. Joel Quenneville on his way to Anaheim. That's what it certainly sounds like. Get his take on that, among other things. He was in the building last night for Leafs Panthers, and I'm sure maybe he was in the scrum with Brad Marchand. And I want to play this clip because we've been talking about it or teasing it throughout the day. Here's Marchand, who I thought played well again last night. I think he's played really well through 2 games. Been very noticeable through 2 games. Obviously scored a goal last night. He's yapping. He ran into Wall early in the game. Well, it looked like Wall kind of tried to hold his own ground and clip him, at the same time. I don't know how you saw that play, Noodles, but
I mean,
Wall kind of didn't try to get out of the way. It almost like he was like leaning into Marchand, hoping he would go even wider, and Marchand was like, "Hey, I'm committed here. If I clip you, I clip you."
Yeah, it's a fine line with the goaltender. We've seen it before. It's different Stolar's Bennett transaction because that's a power play. He's trying to jam, go hard to the net. Then it's a forearm to the head. But when you're trying to, you have your space and you're trying to keep it and stuff like that, I've always believed the goalie's got to stay out of that. What you do is you make yourself fair game, right? You're engaging. That's why I didn't have a problem with Ridley, Gregg, and Stolarz going at it in the first round. But, if Gregg ends up punching him in the head, then you're like, okay, you know what I mean? You invited contact.
Right, you're going back and forth with the guy. At some point, a player might snap on you.
Right. The whole point that I had a problem with as far as any type of interaction with the goaltender is you need to be afforded your ice. Mm-hmm. It's different if a defenseman knocks somebody into you or you're crashing hard to the net. I get it. Sometimes that accidental, contact happens. I don't like it when goalies go looking for it because the player goes, hold on a second here. It's supposed to be an unwritten rule. You're not supposed to go looking for it because if I hit you, you're going to go flying or whatever. The player always wins in that scenario for the most part, unless you're Mike Smith or Ray Emery.
Right, exactly. Maybe Ron Hextall or something.
Yeah,
even that, you got so much equipment on.
Yeah.
And it's so much. And you're just, most goalies aren't, really seasoned in that.
No, they're not wired that
through
way.
It all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Marchand was right in the middle of everything, and he has been through 2 games. And, he was asked about the Leafs through 2 games and what he's seen and what he makes of it. And here's how he responded last night.
They're continuing to get better and grow as a group. They brought a lot of good pieces in at the deadline in the off season to kind of address their back end. They're heavy back there, and obviously their coaching has changed, and their structure is very, very good right now, especially in the D zone. They don't give up a whole lot around the net. So, they're we knew it was going to be a really tough battle. We didn't expect to roll over them by any means. So, we have our work cut out. They're playing really well, and obviously their top guys are capitalizing on every opportunity, it seems like.
All right. So what do you make of that commentary?
If that wasn't Brad Marchand talking, pretty bang on.
Very honest. Very honest. Very composed.
Pointed to growth. Pointed to some of the moves they made. Pointed to the structure they're playing with. Pointed to the coach. If it wasn't Brad Marchand, you're going, all right. Now, the reason, I guess I want your interpretation.
Well,
I didn't see that as a backhand towards them at all.
Here's my thing with Marchand, to his credit. The greatest trolls of them all are the ones where you can't tell if they're trolling you or not. There's no greater compliment you can give a guy like Marchand when you say, he could be sincere or he could be completely patronizing people. And he has said stuff like this in the past. When he was in Boston, he gets asked the question all the time. It's a very Toronto thing. I don't get the impression it happens much in other markets. If it does, it's probably Canadian markets leading the charge, where the media goes to players and coaches on other teams and asks them, what do you think of the Leafs? You know, like it is. I don't think it happens a lot.
No, it happens too much from this market. Remember and you know what? Like, I get it. Matthew's going for 70 or whatever. They're asking people in Anaheim and
right. What do you
Utah,
what do you make of this, McTavish? What do you make of this? Yeah, no, exactly.
Right.
And that's, I guess what I'm getting to is I have heard Marchand say something similar to this in the past. And at that time, I thought, okay, this guy's playing some mind games with this team. You know, like there's something this guy's trying to get across. And, you know, I may be misreading it because the way he said it, it sounded very sincere. And it was an honest assessment. They added things in the offseason and at the deadline, and they're playing really well, and they've got our backs up against the wall. All of it is factual across the board, but it's Marchand, and he has owned the Leafs in the playoffs. Well, like he was the only guy there in 13. He was there in 18, there in 19, and there in 24. He's 4-0 against the Maple Leafs in the playoffs.
Well,
you're
right.
What's he doing here? Where is he trying to spin something and get the Leafs to feel too good about themselves? I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But, again, like I said, the greatest trolls of them all make it impossible to know when they're actually trolling.
Well, all I was waiting for, if he wanted to add this onto it, you know, we got our work cut out for us, but we know, like, we'll figure out how to beat them. Like something, like he stopped short of that. If he was trolling, like he left it there. Like I think the way he spoke with a confidence going, okay, they're doing all of these things, you know, and we still, like, we got our work cut out for us going, well, we know how to beat that. Like, you know what I mean? That's the only thing from a trolling standpoint, if he was doing that, but it didn't seem like that. Like I say, if you took that comment from
if that's
any
Sam
other
Reinhart,
player,
I'm like, okay, gotcha,
yeah,
Sam.
exactly.
Good stuff, man.
But I didn't.
But it's not.
I didn't sense any, like, that wasn't a backhanded smack.
I don't think
anyway.
so either, because it's a weird one when you're just literally pointing out everything that we're seeing.
Done.
And listen, the Leafs are deserving of it. But I guess what I'm getting, I guess my tinfoil Marchand had is that he's also very aware that they have not finished the job yet, that it's not over yet. And in 13, again, I don't even know if he's thinking about 2013. Probably not. It was 12 years ago. But it was 4-1. And if you probably interviewed him during the game, he'd say, well, they did a great job at the trade deadline, and they brought in some really good pieces, and Randy Carlyle's really got them playing a certain way. And then all of a sudden it's 5-4 in overtime. And, you know, they had them in 2019, I believe it was. The Leafs were up 3-2 in that series. And, you know, we know what happened. Now, in other series, in 2018 and in 13, and I believe in 24, the Leafs were chasing the series. They pushed it to 7. But there's just – it's kind of amazing that Marchand is still factoring in so significantly, and it's not Boston. You know, it's not the Bruins that we're dealing with here. It's the Panthers, and yet he's at the forefront of a lot of this, including a lot of different commentary, you know. And I think a lot of focus because of the way he's played. To his credit, he's pulled his weight. He's been really, really good.
He's played well. I think the biggest thing, you know, is I think he was being honest, but he was also still speaking like he didn't look defeated there. He was just speaking matter of fact. It's like, hey, they got our attention because they played well, and this is what they're doing, and all of that type of stuff. But I think if that's the most you can get out of an opponent in a live series. Like, this isn't him speaking afterwards going, hey, they got us because of this, this, and this, and this. This is 2 games in, and he's going, this is what I'm seeing. Now, again, I think he might have stopped short of how he, you know, feels.
But this is
100%.
how we're going to counter it.
Yeah, this is where we're going to go. This is where we feel.
Now.
Right, yeah. But outside of that, like, I think he spoke truth, and I don't think it came from a place of trolling. But that's just my initial
I think you might be
reaction.
right. My mini Jerry on that is like 80% genuine, but there's a 20%.
20% you just don't believe what
mind
comes
games,
out of his
and
mouth.
I just can't buy it because it's Marchand. And you know, listen, the Leafs have them on their heels. You know, that's something we haven't seen since they played Vegas in the Cup final a year ago. I mean, last year during the playoffs, they were always in control of Florida. Obviously, the Cup final was a bit different. When they had to go back for Game 7, I'm sure that had them on notice. You know,
sure.
Edmonton wins 3 in a row, and, you know, they potentially were going to throw away a Stanley Cup. That was something that, needless to say, I'm sure had people nervous in Florida, including the players. But this, you know, against Tampa, it was very routine. Like they won the first 2 games, they lost game 3, and then they won game 4 and game 5.
Yeah.
Gentleman's sweep against Tampa. They come in here probably thinking, okay, we match up well with anybody, the Florida Panthers, not just the Leafs, but they were. Why would you not be confident if you're the Panthers in terms of how you're built, how you're playing, and what you believe you can do, because it's been so successful for 2 years. And the Leafs come out and send 2 quick messages, and now you got the Cup champs. They got to chase the series.
Yeah.
Like they got to chase the series, which is something they haven't had to do for quite some time.
Yeah. So Florida needs a response. You can come down to, and you can pick apart everything, but it comes down to their best players haven't played their best. And whether they get to that level or not, that's the multi-million-dollar question, but it's more about, I thought we were going to see Florida's best last night. I still didn't think we did, but that doesn't mean that, the Leafs are allowed to play and play well too, and that's what they can do. So the point being is, it's going to be a challenge in Florida, but you have to find a way to be a little bit different. Every night's different. Every game's different, so you got to find a way on that particular night to get the most out of what you can, and that's what Craig Berube's going to try and do. Looks like this roster is somewhat set now.
Yeah, there's not going to be any changes now.
Outside of injury, right.
Yeah, exactly. If you run into something like that, but, it's kind of crazy that David Camp just has never played. And it's not like David Camp is a guy who won a Hart Trophy 10 years ago. Right. But, he was a consistent player for years with Sheldon Keefe. Yeah. And was expected to be a consistent member of the lineup this year with Berube. He's got term left on his deal. I can't imagine he's got a future with this team. Again, it doesn't matter. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it in the summer, but they're not even looking at him, and he's fully healthy. And Robertson, I think this is probably a pretty clear message to him, like it's just not going to happen. Like, you're not taking Max Pacioretty out, and they're not going to take Lorentz out, nor should they. McMahon, they're committed to. I think McMahon could have more, but this is also his first playoffs. He's never played in the Stanley Cup playoffs before. He's played in the minors. He was injured last year. He didn't play against the Bruins. So, I think you got to be reasonable in terms of what you can expect him to bring. But he's a bigger body that can skate and be physical when need be. And I think Ty will go to him every day of the week over what Robertson's going to bring. But for me, you go in, you head down to Florida. The goaltending is going to be at the forefront on both sides. Like, Bobrovsky has given up 9 goals in 2 games. That's unheard of. And I don't care who you are. If you're averaging, 4.5 goals against, you're in big trouble, and the team's in big trouble. So that would be where it would start for me. That's nothing Paul Maurice could do. You can demand his team help him out, because the Leafs have created a lot of odd man rushes, man. They scored on 2 of them again last night. But you get 2-on-1s and breakaways, and that's how Nyes won it in game 1 with a breakaway. And last night it was Domi on a 2-on-1 and Nylander on a 2-on-1. That's something I'm sure Maurice is pointing to. We got to help Bob out. Don't allow these odd man rushes. Don't allow them to get through the neutral zone. But let's assume Bob gets better and performs and gets back on the horse. This is where I'm curious, where we stand with Joseph Woll going into the rest of this series, presuming that he plays the rest of it, which I think is very, very likely.
Right.
You're up 2-0. Adequate average goaltending at the start of this didn't seem like it was going to cut it. It maybe still doesn't, but you're up 2-0. That said, if you have the ability to steal a game still, that's the best way to close things out, right? It's like you go down to Florida and you stand on your head in game 3. That's a game changer for everyone, because then it's a real message to Florida. You didn't benefit from Stolarz leaving, and now you're in big trouble because this goalie's red hot, and your back is, ultimately up against the wall as much as it possibly could be. Either game 3 or 4. Yes, doesn't matter. For sure. You want to split in Florida,
right?
For sure.
But my point being is, it doesn't matter if he can steal one game. It doesn't. Then it's up to the team to win the other one.
Yes.
Whether that's in game 3 or game 4 or game 5. Like if you're saying if you're up 2. And your goalie can steal 1. Now you just need 1, where it's
great
like, hey,
spot
we
to
play
be
very. That's your point. What I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be in game 3. It could be in game 4. But the point being is, if he can give you 1 more, then you just need 1 more. So I think that's he's got to give them an opportunity. I thought he did last night. I thought he looked sharp. He didn't look overwhelmed. The situation didn't look like he was overwhelmed. Yes, goalies give up goals, and you're always going to want them back, and you're always going to think that you could do something a little bit different. But in the playoffs, it's just what can you give me that night and to get it done. And, yes, he got help. The minute he gave up one, they went and got it right back type of thing.
Which is big, man.
It's
and
big.
they've done that all playoffs, quick responses.
So that's, there will be some duress at some point on him. He's got to find a way to weather it or fight through it and, give his team an opportunity. So, it is big. If he can steal a game, it really puts the onus on.
And you got to be
the
reasonable.
team.
I mean, that doesn't mean, 60 saves or something like that. But it means,
saves.
The ice is tilted and it's a low-scoring game because, your team isn't there for whatever reason or breaking through or Bob's playing well. And that really is the formula, I think. Now if you're the Leafs, you're up 2-0. If you don't want to rely on it, but it's definitely a card that could be played. You're allowed to have it.
Yeah.
If Wall can stand on his head and quote-unquote steal one, then, you shrink the series down that much more. And then all of a sudden you're in a position where you're thinking, okay, the way we've been playing collectively as a team, blocking shots, hits, depth scoring, keeping emotions in check, you feel good that the Leafs are going to win another one based on merit. Right, based on just the way that they're built, the way that they're playing, the commitment they've had, the resiliency they've shown.
Right.
And that's again why they're in the position they're currently in. All right, we will get to our best bets a little bit later in the hour. Blayre Turnbull coming up with the Sceptres. Again, a great night for Toronto hockey in general. The Leafs and the Sceptres winning playoff games last night. We got a couple of pair of tickets to give away as well to this series. Sceptres taking on Minnesota. So we'll get to those giveaways a little bit later in the hour. Our best bets still to come as well. We got 2 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. We got to touch on Washington bouncing back.
Yeah.
It feels not a must-win, but it feels like a pretty close to it for Washington tonight.
I watched Carberry. I don't know if you saw Carberry's media there.
Not happy after the game.
No, but he talked about today, Carolina shot volume. And he's saying, hey, I get it, but he's like, read into it too. He goes, they shoot the puck off the rush. Like he goes, when we dig into our numbers, we dig into quality chances we give against and stuff. He goes, that's how they play. We have to counter that. But he was saying, like, don't read into us getting run out of the rink. That's just how they play. But that being said, you need to have a response because that's their building and they've already lost home ice advantage. So they have to have a response tonight.
Yep. And even with the fact that Washington didn't love their game, it went to overtime. Logan Thompson almost did what we just talked about. Like Thompson almost just said, I don't care what happens tonight.
Yeah,
we're going to find a way to win this game.
Yeah.
So we got those 2 games. We got NBA playoff games tonight. The Jays remain on the West Coast playing the Angels, so we'll continue to look ahead to that as well. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Let's get down to business. Give you one more.
All right, best bets coming up later in the hour. And we will catch up, of course, with Blayre Turnbull, the captain of the Sceptres, here momentarily. They won Game 1 last night, best of 5 series. Game 2's tomorrow night down at Coca-Cola Coliseum. We're going to give away 2 pairs of tickets to that game, too. It's a tough ticket to get to, man. Tough ticket to get into that building. It's a great building.
It is.
It's an awesome place. It's really an intimate type of vibe, but they pack a lot of people in there. And the Sceptres are, again, off to a really good start here in terms of the first round of the PWHL playoffs. So Blaire's coming up in about 5 minutes or so. The Jets losing Game 1 last night. I want to play the Scott Arneal comment because Prongs mentioned it on the way out, and I was glad he did.
Yeah.
Because we could get into it with him. But I thought of it the same way kind of Pronger did. Like I thought you got to give credit to Dallas, but it's Game 1 coming off just a whirlwind 7-game series that was incredibly physical, incredibly taxing, incredibly emotional. Yeah. And I wasn't sure what to expect out of the Jets last night. I didn't think they were awful.
No.
I thought they battled in the end.
Scheifele came back and he scored a goal. I thought his timing was a little bit off, but there was a lot of positives to draw from it. And keep in mind, Dallas is a hell of a team too. So, I thought Ottinger really played well. Like Hellebuck, the goaltending was good. Like there was a lot to pull out of that. I just didn't like his comments.
Then let's play him, because everything you said apparently is erroneous, according to Scott O'Neill. Here's what he had to say post-game last night.
There was a lot of sloppiness to that game. That did not feel like a playoff game in game 1 in round 2. That felt like game 45 in the middle of December. It obviously, we know the high that we were on coming off that St. Louis game, but man, this is the playoffs. That's a game that, no matter how how you start the game or however you get into the game, it's one of those ones that there's a way we have to play as a group, and that's not how we played tonight.
Oh, man. That is harsh criticism. Like, if they got blown out last night, even that I might think, give your guys a little bit of a break. It's early. It's game 1. Okay, you didn't love the effort.
Yeah.
It's 3-2. They got on the board first. They had a 1-0 lead.
That's a response. Like, to me, that's a press conference where they lost 6-1.
Right. Got smoked and embarrassed. And there were guys just mailing it in all night.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing, man.
They outshot Dallas. I think the chances were pretty darn close. I had them here. I can look quickly, but it was not it was a back and forth, and you could argue that both organizations, not just one, both organizations were like, hey, we just came off. It was really passionate. High danger chances were 16-12 for Dallas. So it wasn't like a blowout or anything. Like, you good chances against you. You created stuff. You had
game
looks.
45 in December, Noodles.
Yeah, it looked. I mean, he's not wrong. There was some sloppiness to it. I'll give you an example. Scheifele had a 2-on-1, and he looked up at the last second to try and find an option on the back door, and the puck just rolled off his stick, and he skated it kind of around the net. So you got a clear-cut 2-on-1, you don't get a shot on goal. Like, yeah, that is slightly sloppy. I get that. But the game is so fast.
Though.
I know. I'm cherry picking.
And that's your guy, too. Scheifele's coming off injury. He's out there.
Give him a break. Holy smokes.
Yeah, cut him some slack. I guess I understand the urgency.
Yeah.
You have to have it, right? You have to have it, because the playoffs, they can end quickly.
Yes.
We just experienced it again 2 years ago using the Maple Leafs as an example. You get through Tampa, you survive, it's emotional, then you're asleep for a couple of games, and before you know it, the series is over.
Gone, yeah.
So I appreciate that there needs to be a level of urgency after you lost game 1. And you gotta make sure that you hammer that home. Gotta get game 2. Cannot lose both games at home. Can't do it. That I understand. But that's like a caller on a hotline post game. Hey, I didn't like the effort. Sloppy tonight.
That was Ron from Port Colborne.
That's right.
That was
game 45 in December vibes. I didn't like it. I would sit this guy and that guy. It's like, that's the head coach, Scott O'Neill.
I know.
And we've talked about Peter DeBoer a million times. Like, Pete just stands back there and is doing his thing. And
big smile. He was chuckling on the bench.
Oh, he's having a great time. Having a great time back there.
He is.
As he should, man. Mr. Game 7. He's basically the Mr. Game 7 of coaches. And I know Game 1 was last night.
Yeah, but
he's undefeated. He's 9-0 in lifetime in Game 7s. If you know you get that much success in the most gut-wrenching moments and the most pressure-packed games, Game 1 of the second round is not going to bug you, man.
No.
It's not going to bother you. It's not going to throw you off your game.
Not at all.
There's no chance.
Pete DeBoer is just, I love him. He big smile back there.
A lot of these coaches, like Craig Berube's laughing, chuckling in between. Paul Maurice will have something. I haven't seen anything from him today. I'm sure he spoke. But tomorrow, he'll come. My guess is he'll play the woke up today, sun was shining. That'll be his thing. Like, we're walking the park. Yeah, you're down 2-0. Yeah. Would you prefer to be up 2-0? Sure, but we're confident in our group, and why wouldn't you be if you're Paul Maurice? And I think if anything, what you'll get is Berube trying to continue to push off the we're the favorites narrative now. They're both fighting for the underdog label. They both want the underdog label. I don't know how Berube can run away from it now that your team's up 2-0. I mean, you got to at some point you got to embrace the fact that now you got to close. And it's not about guaranteeing anything, but you put yourself in a very, very good position.
Yep.
And now you got to get 2 more, and then you reset.
He has to press, not in a way where it jams people up, but he's going to have to press some buttons, and as it gets deeper into a series, it gets harder. So you've got to find a way to call on stuff, or maybe a little shift here or there. And keep in mind, he doesn't get a last change. He doesn't get to protect the scenario or whatever. Sometimes you got to trust the guys that are on the ice. So it'd be interesting to see how, if there's any tactical changes on both sides. Because again, keep in mind, the Leafs had won 2, and going into Ottawa, it's like, I'm going to put Pacioretty in. I've got, it's not,
right.
There's adjustments when you're winning. It's not just adjustments to react. It's constantly evolving and changing, so that you give a different look to the opponent. And, yes, I don't think Pacioretty's coming out, but my point is that, that was a subtle adjustment or a change that has worked out where he's settled in. And it was originally line 3, and then it was line 2, and he's settled in with, those other 2. Tavares is, Willie's been such the focal point, but Tavares has played some good hockey. It's
I think he hasn't gotten, man.
But he hasn't gotten he's not scoring
not
at a regular
huge
rate.
numbers,
Yeah,
but I've
exactly.
noticed his physicality. I've noticed him embracing physicality, also forcing it himself.
Yep.
I think he's been really good at the dot. That's been a big part of the story. The Leafs are really doing really quality jobs, in those small, tight areas.
Yeah.
Right? They're winning a lot of faceoffs, and Tavares has been at the forefront of a lot of that. The adjustments, you're right. What also sticks out and probably explains why they're in the position they're in, 2-0 in this series and 6-2 in 8 games. At no point have they mixed up the defense pairings or contemplated, obviously, replacing anybody. That's usually the best sign. Lines are going to change, right? Things are going to move. For the most part, it's written in stone. The 3 deep pairings, they're not going to change. And I think that's a testament to how well the Leafs have been playing and why they continue to roll out what they've been rolling out.
Yeah.
We'll continue to look ahead again to Game 3 tomorrow night. Game 2 tomorrow night down at Coca-Cola Coliseum. We'll see the Sceptres looking to push the series to 2-0. They got a big win last night over the Frost, and we're into the first round, best 3 out of 5. That I saw a lot of people. I had a lot of friends that were down at the game last night at Coca-Cola Coliseum posting stuff on Instagram. The crowd was going nuts. And it's a big start, right? It's a big start. Game 2 tomorrow night down there, and here's the captain of the Sceptres. She scored a goal herself last night. Here's Blayre Turnbull back on OverDrive. How you doing, Blayre?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well. What did you make of the atmosphere down at Coca-Cola Coliseum last night?
It was awesome. Yeah, it definitely felt like a playoff game for us. Our fans have shown up for us all season. I think we were able to set the attendance record throughout the regular season for our league, which is awesome, and they showed up again last night, so it was a great atmosphere for us to play in.
So do you sense now that, you're getting into the playoffs and you take game 1, to double down on it, is it, a little bit more intensity? Is it a little bit more physicality? What do you think the next step is for you guys to grab a stranglehold here?
I think it's about locking things down defensively a little bit more. I think we did a really good job last night of being physical on the forecheck, and physical throughout the neutral zone. I think one area that we can improve heading into Game 2 is really locking things down in the D zone and trying to really minimize their chances.
Well, in terms of, we always talk about the difference between regular season and playoff hockey, I think at all levels and in all leagues. What has been most noticeable for you? We're still into the kind of but early stages of the PWHL. We're into year 2 here. How much have you noticed the intensity rising in the playoffs compared to the regular season experience?
Yeah, there's definitely a jump. Like you said, I think it's something that happens in every league, but for us last year with the PWHL in its first season and most of us our first time playing in best of 5 series, it was definitely a jump from regular season to playoffs, and we're experiencing that same thing again this year where the physicality goes up, the speed of the game goes up, you have less time to make plays, you're under more pressure. But I also noticed one thing with our team that I really liked last night was just seemed like our discipline to really commit to playing our team system was elevated last night as well. So I thought that was a really promising thing for our team to kind of step up in playoffs.
Have you noticed a little difference in the refereeing? And I'm not going to ask you to say good or bad, anything. You don't want them listening and target you. But the point being, as far as his regular season compared to playoffs, we see it in the NHL. We see it in different pro leagues where the refereeing is a little bit different. Have you noticed any difference between regular season and playoff refereeing?
Yeah, I think they did let us play a bit more last night. I found they were very consistent, I thought, with what they were calling. I thought they let both teams be physical at times, and I don't think they called too much, except for our second period was pretty loaded with penalties. But other than that, I thought they let us play, yeah.
We're chatting with Blayre Turnbull of the Toronto Sceptres. The Sceptres getting off to a 1-0 series lead over Minnesota last night. And you guys played with the lead for the whole game last night.
Right.
The significance of that, we always talk about bounce backs. What do you anticipate Minnesota to maybe do differently to try to, break through and get on the board in terms of the win column tomorrow night?
Well, we actually faced Minnesota last year in the first round of playoffs, and what I noticed about them is that they made adjustments every game. So I know that our game tomorrow will be much different than the game we just played, because they're a team that will make a lot of adjustments to try to shut our game down, but also to try to expose maybe some areas of our game that they see that they can take advantage of. So I think for us it's going to be all about discipline and really committing to playing another game the same way we did in game one. I think it could be easy to kind of be really happy with getting that first win and take our foot off the gas a bit heading into game two. But I think we're well aware that Minnesota is a great team, and they're going to make adjustments, and they're going to be even better in game two. So we have to be ready to go. And I think for us, the same goal will be to try to get on the scoreboard early. But I think we know that they're going to throw a lot of pucks on net, and for us, we got to try to shut things down defensively a little bit better.
So the game within the game, is there a lot of trash talking, trying to get underneath the skin of the opponent, that type of stuff, especially if you're going to play the same team over and over again? Is it, trying to get that competitive imbalance? Are you one to trash talk, or do you leave that for some of your teammates?
It's definitely not something that I do a lot, but we have some girls that like to run their mouth, which I think is great in playoffs. I think if you can do anything to knock someone off their game, it's going to help your team. So we've got a couple girls that like to throw out some chirps here and there, and for me to get under the other team's skin, it's more of just really trying to play physical, try to finish all my checks, try to get in the goalie's grill as often as possible. But we definitely have some girls that like to throw out some chirps.
With the captain of the Sceptres, Blayre Turnbull, game 2 tomorrow night. Sceptres winning 3-2 game 1 against Minnesota last night. Game 1 of the other series begins in Montreal tonight, Montreal-Ottawa. And Montreal, of course, had the pick. Who are they going to take? Was it going to be Ottawa? Was it going to be Minnesota? They went with Ottawa. What do you anticipate? Are you going to be? I'm sure you're tracking that game tonight. But what was that experience like for you and your team? Kind of, once you knew you punched a ticket, you're waiting to see who you're going to play in the first round.
Yeah, it was interesting, kind of waiting around all day to find out who we were going to play. I kind of figured that they would pick Ottawa based on travel. I think traveling from Montreal to Ottawa is significantly better than traveling from Montreal to St. Paul. So I wasn't too surprised that they went with Ottawa just because of that alone. But it was definitely a long day waiting to find out, because the anticipation of the playoffs arriving and finally being here after what seems to be like a really long regular season, and then we have to wait. I know it was only 24 hours, but it felt like a really long 24 hours to find out who we were going to play.
Well, we're a couple seasons into the PWHL. Again, the playoffs have been, you guys, set the tone last night. We got another game in Montreal tonight. We've already got expansion. What do you make of that, Blayre? I guess you mentioned the travel from Montreal to Minnesota. Wait till you have to get to Seattle and Vancouver.
Yeah, I know. Just, popping over to Seattle and Vancouver for a couple quick regular season games a few times throughout the year. Yeah, that'll be interesting to deal with for sure. But, Yeah, personally, I'm surprised it happened as fast as it did. Like, I know, obviously, the PWHL really elevated the game of women's hockey, and I think, obviously, it's important for the league to mark its territory in as many spots as we can. So I think it's a great decision, ultimately, for the league to expand out west, because I think it just gives, obviously, two new teams a chance to grow the game and a chance to really put our league on the map in a different area of the world.
Absolutely. Well, it was a great start for the Sceptres last night. You got on the game sheet yourself last night as well, so continued success. Go get Minnesota tomorrow night. Thank you for doing this, Blayre. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's the captain of the Sceptres, Blayre Turnbull. And, again, it's an electric atmosphere down there, and we have tickets to give away right now. The PWHL playoffs are here, and TSN 1050 is giving away 2 pairs of tickets to Game 2 tomorrow night. Sceptres versus the Frost. Again, tomorrow night, Friday, May 9th, down at Coca-Cola Coliseum, 7 p.m. puck drop. The first 2 callers through right now, 416-870-1050, 416-870-1050. The first 2 callers through will score the opportunity to see the Sceptres in action tomorrow night, as, again, they look to take a 2-0 lead and match their counterparts down the street with the Leafs, right? You go 2-0 up on Mini, you're going to feel good about that if you're in the Sceptres room. So, there you go.
I think it's great. But the other thing, too, I meant to bring this up the other day, and you just mentioned it with her. Was it Montreal got to choose Ottawa, correct?
Yeah, it was either Ottawa or Minnesota they could pick.
That
and
was
they took
part
the
of the
third
league.
seed.
I know, but it's just it's interesting. Can you imagine, like, if that's the wrinkle that
it's a crazy way of doing it. I like it a lot. I do. I like it a lot. I get it in other leagues, established leagues.
Yeah.
You know, the NHL, NBA, MLB. That's just the way it's always been, and it's seeding. And
right.
I think there would be a level of people would be uncomfortable in different sports that if you were to rework the way it always has happened naturally. This, though, really puts a spotlight on Montreal. Because if you're Ottawa, you're thinking, really, you want a piece of us? Okay. Like,
go ahead. Yeah.
It's such a great inspiration if you got chosen. And I think Blayre brings up a good point. I mean, travel is obviously something to consider, but that's something you're considering for your opponent, too. I mean, Ottawa's in a better position, too, traveling to Montreal and back.
I know, but Minnesota's not in the, like
it's
the
not
North
Australia
Pole.
It's or something. Yeah,
2.5 hour flight. You gain an hour. Like
I know.
And they're not taking a rickshaw there. They're flying. Like if you believe now, listen, Toronto benefited from it because if Minnesota is the weaker team and they get them, then good.
Go take advantage of that.
Go take advantage. But you're right. Like I still come back to the whatever league you're in. Having to choose your opponent is such a gut punch.
It's so greasy.
It is because it's like we don't want you, we want them.
Yeah.
And
you stink. We want you right there.
You want us? You want a piece of me? Like that is. I kind of love it. I really do.
It's a bold strategy.
Yeah.
But it's also got to be very, very, satisfying if you get picked and then you upset whoever picked you.
Exactly.
Like if Ottawa knocks out Montreal, it's the ultimate mic drop. You can't beat that. All right, Best Bets powered by FanDuel still to come. 2 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. NBA playoffs continuing. The Jays are in Anaheim. Again, the Sceptres in action tomorrow. Leafs game 3 tomorrow as well. You can hear that right here on TSN Radio. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Take my breath. And make it last forever, babe. Do it now or never, babe. Take my breath.
All right, we'll get to our Best Bets powered by FanDuel here in just a moment. We're getting closer to the PGA Championship next week as well. And, of course, we've got the RBC Canadian Open coming up in a month. We're going to be up there. We look forward to that. The Truist Championship, round 1. Keith Mitchell had himself a day. Denny McCarthy. There's Ricky Fowler out there feeling it.
Yeah.
Not seeing many of the picks Owen and I made, but we'll address that tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. And in terms of our best bets, I'm looking at this Caps game tonight. Best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Capitals on the puck line, plus 1.5. The Carolina Hurricanes are favored tonight.
Wow.
Somewhat of a large number, too. Like, not crazy, but not inconsequential. I mean, it does appear as if FanDuel and Vegas are looking at Carolina to win this game tonight. I like Washington plus 1.5 and Ovechkin to record 1+ point. That's paying effectively a pick 'em, plus 105. Yeah. But I like it tonight. I think the Caps respond. I think they're a lot better tonight. And I think Ovi, who wasn't great the other night, he's going to get cooking, man. It's tough to break through. Carolina's a frustrating team to play against. Those are your best bets, powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every Stanley Cup playoff game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 18+, physically located in Ontario. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what comes of it tonight, man. I found Pronger's answer on the Vegas response tonight more muted than I was expecting.
Really?
Well, he was kind of indicating, like he kind of felt like he was leaning Edmonton tonight.
Yeah.
With how well the Oilers are playing, and he, like he said, he brings up a good point. Vegas didn't play great against Minnesota. No. Yet they survived.
They did. I mean, I think they have, outside of Kaprizov and Boldy, like Minnesota's a really good team. But I thought Vegas, they're heavier, they're more experienced. For the most part, they're healthy. But now Dorofeev, I think he's
going, and Petrangelo's at game time tonight.
Which I mean, game time, what does that mean to you?
For O, it means he's guaranteed, right? If O were here, he'd say he's 100% playing.
But, I don't know. They said sickness the other day. I don't know. I mean, that might be more nicked up, but saying sickness. But either way, I expect Vegas to be a lot better, the adjustments. We'll see if Edmonton can handle it. Here's the one thing that I would argue for or against Edmonton. You can't be spotting teams 2 goals and then go, okay, now we'll wake up and play. Because eventually that comes back to bite you in the ass. Like, I thought they were fantastic for 50 minutes last game. They were the better team and played well. But you can't spot a 2 spot and then go, okay, let's knuckle down here, guys. Like, that's not the recipe. Because if there's going to be a game that's 2-1, and if you spot them 2, you're losing that game because you don't break through on the other end. So if anything, starting quickly, starting on the road, all of that type of stuff. You mentioned Joseph Woll. Well, Calvin Pickard might have to have himself like a game where it's like, I'm the difference maker. And don't get me wrong, against LA, he really made some timely saves. Even last game, I thought he made a couple good saves when it mattered. But, it might be that Edmonton just doesn't have the goods tonight, and you need your goaltender to bail you out.
That's allowed to happen.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I mean.
And I would say Vegas, it's even more important that happens if Vegas doesn't have life, which there's no excuse for them not to tonight.
Right.
But Aiden Hill's got to...
He needs a response.
He's got to get going here.
Yeah,
big time. All right, so we got a couple of games in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs. We've got the Jays in action, and then tomorrow, it's all about Game 3, Leafs Panthers tomorrow night. Right here on TSN Radio. O-Dog will be back tomorrow, and we'll be teeing it up all afternoon. Cannot wait for that. We got Game 4 on Sunday. I guess we got to tee up Game 4 as well.
Yeah, as well.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot coming this weekend. That is for sure. All right, thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.